Newcomb Construction is a family-owned design-build general contractor. We work using the concrete tilt-up method. We cast our own concrete wall panels on the job site, and then we tilt them up.
We like tilt-up. It's cost-effective and it's efficient, not only during construction, but also when the building's complete. It runs more efficiently. We had acquired a couple of buildings that Newcomb had previously built and liked the quality, liked their style. They're able to do a lot with tilt-up construction, and so we reached out to them on our first project and came back to the well. We were impressed with what they did. You work directly with Gus and Brett. They're very hands-on. They're willing to roll up their sleeves and work through the issues and come out with a great product.
What I really love about our job is working with the clients. They strategize and dream for their own company. We're part of it.
Many of you know we created this event in 2022 to bring CEOs from across the state to Madison to talk about their businesses and to talk about doing business in Wisconsin. Today we welcome Scott Griswold of Milwaukee Tool. Can we give a hand to Scott? We were visiting before, and it's a fascinating, the Milwaukee Tool story is a fascinating one and maybe not fully understood here in the Madison and Dane County area. Milwaukee Tool is a multinational company that develops, manufactures, and markets power and hand tools and personal protective equipment. Our moderator, per usual, is Mark Richardson, and there's more biographical information about both of our speakers today in your handout. I want to take time to thank our sponsors and partners whose support of this event makes it possible. Our sponsors are the Burrish Group at UBS, Newcomb Construction, Bergstrom Cadillac, WPS Health Solutions, and Godfrey Kahn Law. Our partners are Cargo Coffee, the Edgewater Hotel, and Hinckley Productions. I'd like to take just a moment to highlight next month's Cap Times Idea Fest. This is our 8th annual Thought Festival, and will be our best yet. Our headliners this year include Nancy Pelosi and Liz Cheney, but I'd also like to point out we'll have sessions featuring Tommy Thompson, our 4-term governor, talking about his 60 years in Wisconsin politics, and the chairman of the Republican state party. But Idea Fest is a lot about much more than politics. Our 24 sessions will explore Madison's healthcare ecosystem from various angles, as well as progress on education and entrepreneurism in our communities of color, the local housing crisis or issue, and the future of local theater, among many other topics. For the first time ever, Idea Fest tickets were sold out in July. Sponsorships in various shapes and forms are still available. I can assure you there's not another community event like it in the entire Midwest. Anyway, thank you again for being here today and supporting the locally owned and operated Capital Times. Once more, sincere thanks to Scott for being here. And Mark, take it away.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. So, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thanks for coming to the Power Hour breakfast, and welcome back to our attendees. Show of hands, first-timers to the breakfast? Okay, all right, well, we're almost half and half, and so thank you for coming, and for those of you who didn't raise your hand, thank you for coming back. Also, show of hands, who has Milwaukee tools in their house?
Wow, there we go, thank you, that's
okay.
Awesome.
Who also has DeWalt, Black & Decker, Craftsman?
Easy.
Anybody?
We don't talk about that.
Anybody? Well, those are the ones those are the hearts and minds to
All
change
right.
today.
See me afterwards. We'll have a little conversation.
So let's make the case. Tell us a little bit about Milwaukee Tool history, where you're at today.
Sure. So we're actually a fairly old company, and this is kind of nice to be here to talk about this because we've just reached our 100-year anniversary. So 1924. We got this thing going. So this is exciting for us. We don't look at our anniversary in the way most companies would. It's more of a forward-looking perspective versus a backwards-looking perspective, but it is interesting to kind of talk about where the company has come from and where we're headed. So just a little bit of background on it is, like a lot of companies in that time period, we were more of a little bit of an industrial not construction, but fabrication-oriented company. So little portable tools, mostly used in small workshops. And when the war kicked off and there was a lot of construction of war machines and war equipment, we actually supplied a lot of that, right? And that kind of got us into more of an industrial mode. But what really got the company on its track was when the war ended and the GIs came home and they needed places to live. They needed homes, and that was when the suburban build-out happened. It was right after the war. So our entree into product development really happened as we looked at those tradesmen building homes and said, how do we start to develop tools for the trades, specific tools for the trades. So our Sawzall, who knows what a Sawzall is? Everybody's got to know what a Sawzall is, right? The Sawzall, invented in early 50s, was another example, like a right-angle drill of a tool purpose-built for an electrician or a plumber.
Is that sort of the tool that built the early years?
It's one of the earlier tools. The right-angle drill was actually the first trade-specific tool to get in between joists and studs for a plumber or electrician. But we look back at that period of time as the period that really defines where our equity is, because when we go into the more recent history in the early 2000s, and we'll talk about the transition to 2007, we really tried to understand where our equity was as a brand, because we weren't super well known outside of the trades. But we went back through our history and we said, you know what, our equity was really built on having a focus on the trades, understanding their needs, and building solutions for their needs.
Yeah.
And the good news is throughout the years, Milwaukee never really strayed from building industrial tools more or less specialized for these trade groups. Many of our competitors did. They got into making toaster ovens and irons, and we won't talk about what brand that is. But as companies grow, the pressure is, how are you going to keep the sales growth up? And a lot of times companies grow into things that they shouldn't, right? They water themselves down, they get distracted, they lose their way, they forget, who their core users are and who they're trying to serve. So, Milwaukee never did that, right? Okay. Milwaukee stayed true to an industrial product line for hardcore tradesmen. And so that's really our history. We're very proud of that. Yeah. It wasn't, a rocket ship of a ride for the first 80 years. It was steady as she goes, and that was fine. And that's how the
last 15 have been a bit crazy.
Yeah, so the last 15, if you think about our growth trajectory, we grew from nothing to $450 million until about 2006. In the last 17 years, we've gone from $450 million to nearly $10 billion in sales. So
yeah, right. Hey, give it up. That's crazy growth. It's funny. One of the first things in doing the research, I saw that was a 100-year-old company, right? We got on the phone, and Heather's over there, and we were doing our prep call, and I said, "Happy birthday!" Right? One of the first things I said is "Happy birthday" to the company, and one of the first things you said is, "We're just getting started."
Yeah, and that's actually our motto. That's our theme for our 100-year anniversary. And again, it's very forward-looking.
Yeah.
We're very proud of our past, but so much of what matters is where we're headed, and it kind of ties back to our culture a little bit. We try to stay very humble, right? In some cases, we're a little paranoid because we know that success is fleeting, and if you get too complacent and you start to enjoy your success too much and maybe hit the country club a little too much or take too many breaks, you're gonna end up getting disrupted by someone that sees your success and is going after it. So we stay very humble, very agile, hungry, and that scares us to death, frankly, of losing that hunger to stay strong, agile, aggressive, and with a growth mindset.
So, where did that growth mindset come from? Like we talked about, you had the sort of the early years and then the middle years where you're just paying the bills and growing, but not super growth. When did that change?
Well, there was a new leadership team that came in. I was a part of that, and our parent company changed, and so there's a little history with that. But between the sale from Atlas Copco, which is a Swedish company, does a lot of industrial tools for manufacturing. They looked at Milwaukee as just one of the cash cows in their portfolio. Didn't screw it up, but just enjoyed sort of the flow of free cash. And we were picked up by a very entrepreneurial guy. It was a group, but largely driven by a German who had worked for Volkswagen in Asia, lived in Hong Kong, and started to build up manufacturing capabilities and started to grow into brands. He acquired the brand Dirt Devil and he acquired Hoover, so that's part of our portfolio.
Okay.
And really wanted to get more into the professional tool space and acquired Milwaukee. And so he saw the potential there, sort of a brand that had not been, screwed up.
Yeah.
Still had a very strong industrial following, and he saw the potential to really treat it like a startup almost. Okay. How do we pour rocket fuel on this great brand and leverage the technology that's there? And so he hired, like-minded people. Joe Galli, who was our CEO of the parent company for the last 20 years, and hired Steve Richman, who ran Milwaukee in the Americas for the last 17 years, and then hired a number of us to come in and look at things very differently, right? Okay. So it was a leadership change for sure.
Okay.
It was a recognition from our group, though, that technology is what fuels growth. The rate of change in our world is accelerating exponentially, and the understanding there was that if you don't have a growth mindset, you're going to die.
It's just a matter of when,
it's
not if.
grow or die.
Okay.
And it's hard to be in the middle these days.
Yeah.
And just be comfortable, right? So I think that's true really in most industries. All of us should think this way, because now more than ever, tech is changing our world. AI, ML, connected devices we were talking about before the show started today. All these things are happening so fast that it's hard to anticipate how they will disrupt things. Yeah. And so you have to constantly be imagining what's possible and be willing to disrupt yourself. So one of our mantras is, and it ties to our culture, is we're obsessed. We're obsessed with a lot of things. A lot of people don't admit they're obsessive in a culture statement. It's a little bit strange, but we are obsessed with our users, right? Okay. But we're also obsessed with disruptive innovation. So Clayton Christensen wrote a book called Disruptive Innovation. There's like 3 books that he wrote. When Steve and I were at Bosch, which is another tool company, prior to this, we kind of embraced that book. Okay. And we understood that, if you're not willing to disrupt yourself, then you're going to get disrupted by someone else, right? So if you have that mindset that, you need to be the disruptor and you need to be willing, if you're a successful company, to get out of your comfort zone, modify your business model, even if it's painful financially, right, or culturally or operationally. If you're not willing to do that, someone will do it for you, yeah, right? And then you're on your heels reacting. So that's been a huge mantra to our culture, is this understanding that we are going to be a leader in providing, and this is another nuance, solutions. We're not a product company anymore. So okay, in the prior 80 years, we made power tools and some accessories, right, to go along with them. And we made products. And that's limiting because you're defined by the products you make then, right? Right. And we said, well, in order to leverage the investments we're going to make in tech and in other things, right, that are enablers, we need to look at ourselves differently. So we started to say, we're a solutions provider for our core trades. Okay, not a product company that makes routers and sanders and drills.
Right, same company, different
outlook. Very, very different mindset. So, and this was hard for the people that worked at Milwaukee, who had worked their life on a corded hammer drill, right, to understand that we weren't going to be defined by the products we make in the same way. It was very difficult. Yeah. The other thing we said is one of the major technology changes that we all can relate to now with cars was that things that plug in will be obsolete. and we're going to make that happen. We're going to drive that change in our industry. We are going to be a leader there. And that was also very tough for the people that had worked their lives building heavy-duty industrial corded, the ones that plug in tools.
The equipment that they really grew up professionally making.
Yeah, making.
You're telling you that it's a planned obsolescence.
Aggressive planned obsolescence.
Okay.
And that was one of the big shifts that we drove. And we weren't the first to do it, but we said we're going to convert the job site to cordless tools.
Okay.
And at the time, there was a few cordless tools on a job site, that were more convenient. But at the time, the power wasn't there. The runtime wasn't there. Yeah. And we said, well, we're going to be aggressive here. And we had support all the way up to the top to be bold and aggressive to really convert cordless tools or corded tools to cordless tools. And at the same time, we wouldn't do it for everything. We would do it for very focused group of users.
Okay.
So this is really important. So a lot of companies really just try to serve as many people as they can, as many different user groups as they can. They think that's the best way to capture the most amount of sales, right? Try to serve everybody. Yeah, well, it's hard to serve everybody. Right. So part of our mantra was, in order for us to delight our users and deliver very unique, awesome products and solutions, we were going to have a focus on fewer segments of users. Yep. So we went back to the 30s, 40s, and 50s and said, which user groups really value Milwaukee to a whole nother level? Right. And we thought about the whole hog. We thought about the Sawzall. We thought about the right angle drill. We thought about some of these very specialized products, which now seem ubiquitous, but were at the time were very unique. Right. And if you talk to a plumber, he talks about hogging holes. It's a verb. And that is a right angle drill and a self-feed bit. In his mind, hogging holes is a thing he does every day, and it's important to his work. So we said we're going to focus on electricians. I think we have someone representing the IBEW, Local 150 here. Where is he? There he is. Yep. So this is actually the group we started to focus on first, was electricians. And we said we'd focus on plumbers and mechanical contractors. And the woodworkers, sorry, we're discontinuing our router bits, and we're going to basically ignore our award-winning router that we just launched. People in the company.
That's a risk, right?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Like, wait a second.
I worked 3 years on that router. You're not gonna give me any resources anymore. Nope. We're gonna focus on mechanical, electrical, plumbing. We're gonna focus on delivering cordless tools and accessories, and we're going to focus on specializing those tools for the trades. Okay. Developing things that have not been thought of before.
So that's where R&D went. That's where that's where resources went into developing these new tools. So during that same time frame, if I've got the numbers right, tell me if I don't, double-digit growth. You grew your workforce 7 times over in that same time frame. 1,500 patents were issued. Yeah. So you've become an 80-year-old startup?
Right. I like to say we're a group of startups. Okay. So we try to, and part of our culture is empowered leaders. So we are always looking for ways to create startups within our culture. So there's this idea of having 2 operating models. There's a book called XLR8, which is a book that we read early on that helped us think this way, which says for a mature company, an established company, you have to have a part of the business that has an operational mindset, right? You need organization, you need efficiency, you need to take cost out of your business. But if you only do that, you will become very, stodgy and predictable and conservative. So you have to have that operating model. And at the same time, you have to allow part of your organization to be more entrepreneurial, less structured, more freedom, higher risk-taking. So that dual operating model was really important to us. And when we were at about $1 billion in sales, we set this audacious goal to get to $5 billion. And we had this whole mantra about getting from $1 billion to $5 billion. And a big part of the message was we are going to need to have 2 operating models, and we're going to need to look at a self-funding investment model. Unfortunately, our owner was very comfortable with this. Okay. Any free profits above our commitment, our 10%, 11% EBIT commitment, we could reinvest in the business. Okay. So we could self-fund, and it put us into a very kind of entrepreneurial spirit where if we excelled on the operational side from a sales and operations standpoint, driving growth, taking cost out, we could then empower our own growth and reinvest that in the business. So created this really cool dynamic of, hey, we can control our own destiny. We can self-fund our growth, and we don't have to beg for dollars with every project, right? Because the thing that kills you is every proposal has to go through a committee all the way up to the top.
Right.
That takes time. Everyone's got an opinion, and things are slow. Versus, hey, you can reinvest, and you guys can decide what you're going to reinvest in, more or less, right? As long as it makes sense at a high level. And that drove a tremendous amount of growth, testing, trying things, prototyping, conceptualization, and it enabled startups within our business, right?
So you made some bets. You made some bets, and I imagine obviously more of them have panned out than haven't.
Correct.
And so, but the timing on that, 2008, 2009, right? Like the world was, like the bottom was falling out.
Oh yeah, yeah. So the $1 billion in sales was 2012, but when we started to make this big change and be bold and make investments in the 2008 time period, this is right before, well, really 2007, this is right before the financial crash, which was very hard for a lot of companies, as we all know.
Yeah.
And had we not placed some bets to, disrupt the market with new cordless solutions, to have this trade focus, to actually invest, as we went into the crisis, during the crisis, we made some gambles, right? Where most companies were pulling back, we were doubling down. And if we had not made those investments, Milwaukee would not be here. I'm completely convinced we would not be around. So I give a lot of credit to, our prior CEO, Steve Richman, who's now the current CEO of the parent company, and our founders, Horst Pudwell and Roy Chan. They allowed us to double down, which was very risky, very risky. But it paid off, because what happens when you invest into a crisis is it magnifies your growth. It magnifies your move, because everyone else is contracting, you're moving forward, and your gain is 2 to 3 times what it would be otherwise.
Right.
And we had a couple of those moments where those big investments drove dramatic moves. The last one was during the pandemic, right, where people weren't coming to work. Our competitors were furloughing their employees. Go home for 3-4 months. Literally take off. We're not paying you, or we're going to pay you, but we don't want you in the world. We were doubling down. We viewed ourselves as an essential business. We were not only helping ourselves figure out how to work safely, but we were helping our contractors. We were actually providing them training protocols and operating protocols to operate safely in that environment, and they loved us for that, right? So not only were we going back to work, but we were helping our customers get their work done, which builds a lot of credibility,
goodwill,
and goodwill.
You're creating solutions, right?
Yeah, it's exactly.
That's
another example of an innovation, right?
That's fascinating, because we all know COVID. We were talking before the show. There's almost like a pre-COVID, your pre-COVID employee in business. There's the COVID employee that's hired during that time, right? And then there's the post-COVID. So how do you, because there's very different experiences if you were hired, during that time. And so how do you, it sounds like culture and maintaining your culture has been, you've been intentional about that. There's been a focus about that. How do you become such a big company so quick and still stay small?
Yeah. Very, very important question, because we grew dramatically through COVID. I think, Heather, we hired like 1,500 people in the corporate office in the matter of a couple years, 3 years. And we're up to 4,300 now. We were, when I started, 225. So we added 1,500 people roughly in that really rough time period where we were all over the place. And it was hard to, observe culture, observe behavior, right? Yeah. So our biggest fear is, as you said it, how do you stay small as you grow large? How do we maintain our culture? I mean, we're now in, 6 different buildings in just the Brookfield, Menominee Falls, Milwaukee area. How do you do that, right? And so, Now, we know the culture changes and evolves over time, but we constantly reinforce what the behavior is that's good. When we see it, we recognize it, and we award people, a token. We have a culture coin. So for all of our cultural traits, speed, agility, urgency, empowered leaders, candid, one team, all these things that we do, we have 6. When we see that behavior, we pull the group together, whatever work group it is, and we call that person up and we tell the story about how they have been behaving and how that's awesome and what it means to the business. We give them a culture coin, which is, it's kind of from the military, and a lot of police forces use these coins to kind of build that reinforce that cultural behavior, and we give those out, and so people are really proud about them. Sometimes they'll post it on LinkedIn, like I won this award at Milwaukee. So, yeah, we reinforce it wherever we can. We recognize that silos build up, and that's tough. Sometimes silos, are just, silos is kind of a dirty word, but sometimes you get subcultures within the big culture, and that's okay, right? That's going to happen, but we don't want functional silos.
Right.
We don't want the engineering group to behave differently from the finance group, differently from the marketing group.
You can't have a different value set.
No.
You can have, it's a different team.
It's a different team, and the dynamics of the team could be different, but we're a highly collaborative environment. New product development requires a lot of different functions to come together, and so we introduced a culture trait about 7 years ago that was really important add because one of our traits was candid, and candid is really important. Everyone speaks their mind. Everyone gets the issues out on the table. It doesn't fester. That was really healthy, but it started to turn into, an excuse for being a jerk, right? You just say what you want, throw people under the bus, and be like, this is not good. This is not a good trend. So this is where a good example of how do we reinforce what was meant by candid, right? And we had to add one team mentality to that so that people understood it's not about you. It's not even about your specific team. It's about the broader team, and how do we work together to solve problems and improve. And that one team mentality has been a great rally cry. A huge rally cry, because it really does take the focus away from the individual in a lot of senses, where people get possessive, they get protective, they get, individually paranoid to, hey, as a team, we should be worried about what's going on in the marketplace. And how to tackle problems together versus, it becoming, oh, they've got an issue, that stinks for them.
Yeah.
Good luck. It's now, how do we help? Okay. How do we swarm that problem and make it happen? And we've got a great example in 2017. Who's gone through an ERP change? SAP, Oracle, whatever. Only a few, boy, you're lucky. I don't wish it on anyone. Most of them don't go well, as you may know. We decided to embark on an ERP change and a change to our warehouse management system.
Same time.
Same time.
That's,
We thought, let's get it done. Let's knock it out. What could go wrong?
We're being agile.
What could possibly go wrong?
Everything.
Everything. So, we flipped the switch, and of course, nothing worked really well, and we couldn't ship anything, and we literally swarmed around this problem like I don't think any other company has. In fact, we had consultants say that we've dealt with this. We've seen companies, deal with these transitions, and we've never seen a company, rise to a problem like this collectively to solve it. And to kind of put it in perspective, we literally couldn't get products shipped. It was bad, and guy would ask for Sawzall, we'd send him 50. We had problems like that. We get a tenth of the order out, and we lose the other 90% in our system somewhere, and it was just bad.
How long did that go on?
There was a month of real pain and 6 months of total recovery. 3 months was probably the bulk of it, but thankfully it was only 1 to 3 months of real pain because of the way everyone came together. Yeah. Project leaders from around the company showed up, and we deployed all the different initiatives. We had chartered flights from corporate. Every 2 weeks, a new batch of corporate people would go down to the distribution center and participate in, whether it's packing boxes or supporting one of the initiatives. And it was just a fresh round of people from sales and headquarters, just problem solving and doing the manual labor to get boxes packed and shipped and servicing our customer. Even Steve Richman, our president, I remember being down there at 10:30 at night packing skids, and it was me and Steve trying to figure out what was wrong with the Panda line. UPS couldn't get their shipment the next day, and working with the IT people to figure it out. So those were defining moments in our culture where
Right.
that one team mentality was really clear, and we often talk about it because it's an easy one to think about. But that's the way we roll.
Yeah, that's like frontline workers, the folks that aren't used to seeing you guys packing boxes. That had to strengthen relationship between leadership, management, frontline, across the board.
Yeah, absolutely, it did. And it also helped a lot of people in corporate learn a lot about distribution.
Yeah.
Too. I mean, I learned more about distribution through that than anything. And I'm grateful for that crash course and how a DC works. Right? That's perfect.
So it sounds like so many different ways to go. It sounds like from a culture standpoint, with this growth, it's a full-time job managing and supporting and reinforcing that, and you take the time to do it.
We do. You would think we'd be highly carefully structured to do that, and I wouldn't say that's the case. We're very much a testing organization. We like to test things, see if they work, and scale them. Nail it, scale it kind of mindset. So we don't get as focused about, I know this sounds weird, but how we're going to get there, because we know our innovative culture, one of our traits is never settle, always improve. So that's that continuous improvement mindset. So that puts everyone into the gear of thinking about how to adapt.
Yeah.
And that's just natural.
Yeah.
So we more look at how do we set big goals, how do we get the company geared around our strategy about innovating, driving solutions, and how do we empower people to try things,
Right.
and test, taking small bets and determining which are going to be the ones that are going to pay off, and then investing in them. So it's not so much that we've laid out the roadmap to the next whatever billion, and we know exactly what's going to happen. It's
Right.
not that at all. In fact, we spend very little time trying to forecast our growth.
Right. It's more the focus on what we're about
Yep.
and how we operate,
Yep.
and that, in a way, takes care of itself.
Right. And
Because
it's-
you're bringing people to the party that you've
Right.
already identified that these are values of yours.
And it's not internally focused as much as it is externally focused. So our constant obsession with the user, so the trades, whether they're our current trades or trades we're starting to learn more about,
Okay.
everyone in the company at some level thinks about those trades and thinks about their work, thinks about how we can help them, and it comes at different levels. So for example, we have our continuous improvement manufacturing team there's a part of that group that works with contractors to figure out how to lean out the construction process. So lean thinking in manufacturing has been around forever, right? Not ever, but the last 50 years. Lean thinking in construction has not. It's really something that's only been happening in the last 10 years. So we know a lot about lean. We are manufacturers. So we've taken some of those resources. This is just an example of being able to get really close to the business to see how work is done.
Yeah.
It helps them. They value us, but you know what else we're doing? We're seeing problems that we can solve. We're seeing the ability to bring a solution to an unmet need. And we see it in a different way. Very often when you're in the middle of it, you can't see the problem.
No.
And sometimes you're proud of the workaround.
Yeah.
Look at this great workaround. Look at this incredibly difficult thing that I just did, and I'm so good at it.
Yeah,
right?
you got to step back.
Yep. And then you look at what they're doing. And it's like, man, that took you like an hour and a half to do something relatively simple. It's like, yeah, didn't I do a great job? You did, but shouldn't it be like a 5-minute job? Yeah, probably. So we see some of these things, we make these observations, and then we have a research team that comes in and just studies it and looks at how do we reorganize that workflow and possibly bring unique products that shorten that workflow and save incredible amount of time for that end user. And that becomes, when we talk about solutions, it's really safety, productivity is really the basis of those solutions. How do we make the workflow safer, and how do we take time out of the job?
Right.
And that's really the whole special sauce.
Okay. No, that's cool. From a standpoint of old company, new company, right? Before all the startups, there was the one company. Now you're in innovation. You're in cordless. You've probably got software developers. You probably didn't have those, 20 years ago. From a talent standpoint, where and how are you finding new talent, and when did you know you needed them? And are you coming from different places around the country? Where are you finding your folks?
Yeah, so that's changed a lot. Our model is built largely on a campus recruiting model. We're kind of a farm system. We believe strongly in recruiting off campuses, finding the right profile of individual, that has the potential to be a good culture fit, usually a lot of horsepower, right? Very smart, but also hardworking, right? So we like to go to schools that are not always the Ivy Leagues, right? We don't go to all Ivy League schools, for example. We go to a lot of schools sort of in the middle because there's just a lot of hardworking go-getters there, right? And we recruit in a variety of different schools, but we really like the profile of person that has worked hard for things in their life. They're smart, they're ambitious, they've got grit, and that's what we do. We have a very, very broad program on campuses. We show up with our brand, we make a big statement, we try to show the energy that we have on campus and the forward-thinking mindset that we have. We sell ourselves as a tech company in many cases, not a traditional product company, because we harness a lot of technology. So that's kind of the model of how we grow. Now, that's not to say that we don't hire, seasoned people. We do. But we try to hire the majority of our people off campuses. So, and you can do that nationally and even internationally. So that's helpful because there's almost a limitless amount of talent that you can get access to. Now the question is, how do you get them excited about coming to the Midwest, right? And working in a small market like Milwaukee, that's a challenge. And you can only physically put so many people here. And then when you talk about software developers and electrical engineers, firmware, they like the coasts, right? They like the bigger tech centers. Like we know, of course, Silicon Valley, Austin, Texas, and there's a lot of, like Milwaukee, there's a lot of small markets now that are really trying to build their tech focus. So we're grateful for that, and we work with the Milwaukee different organizations to do that, the schools. So, but it's tough. So we have to sell ourselves as as interesting as some of these big tech companies like Google, Apple, and so forth. So, we're competing with Tesla for talent, and we sell our city. We love our little city. It's a great city. It's one of the best cities to be a young person in because the cost of living is so low, and there's actually pound for pound quite a bit to do there. We've got the Summerfest and you got the lake and everything. So we really sell up the city. We bring people in. We bring them in the summer usually, and fall. We don't bring them in the winter.
Right about now. We do that now.
Taking to beautiful places like this, and we really focus on the warm months. And maybe, we sell our city.
Maybe build a really cool new office.
Yes, that's a good point. So as we were trying to keep up with all our growth, going from 250 people to where we are now, 4,300 people, we were growing so fast, we couldn't build another building, right? We had just built an expansion on our main headquarters and another building across the street, and we didn't have time to build another building. So we said, all right, let's look at this a little differently. We're trying to attract people that are younger demographic, looking for something, a little bit more exciting in an urban environment. There was the Assurant building downtown, which was well situated in the city, and we just made a quick call to do that. And but we did develop it, but we didn't go small. We went really, really big, right? We wanted to make a monument there. It was a real statement piece. So when you come to Milwaukee,
you see it. You
see Milwaukee brand in a big way. So and we delivered, right? If you go in the building, it screams Milwaukee, but it also screams very industrial. It speaks to the trades. All of the electrical and mechanical and plumbing is all exposed, and it's beautiful. The guys put a ton of time into making sure every piece of conduit is perfectly parallel. All the bends are beautiful. All the plumbing is beautifully laid out. But we want our employees to see and look up and say, this is what you're doing, right? You're enabling this building to function and to operate. And So we're always trying to bring the elements of the job site to our employees, whether they're on the job or in our building. So we take those things that most people hide and we showcase them, and we embellish them. So if you go into our headquarters, you would see that. You would see that really cool industrial construction-oriented theme throughout. A lot of heavy iron.
Yeah.
A lot of red. A lot of just very industrial elements. So it's definitely a showpiece. And if you're in Milwaukee, just try to, if you're coming up 43 North, you'll see it. It's right on the 794 spur. But get off and drive around the building, because the east-facing side is this giant 5-story red wall with the Milwaukee logo on it. And if you go inside, you could maybe peek in, and we've got this atrium, floor-to-ceiling, 5 stories with this 30-foot Milwaukee sign that's all lit by a skylight. So
I saw it from the highway. I was in Milwaukee last week for a conference, and we shot into town and got some dinner, and we were coming back out.
Okay.
And there it was, big as day. And I mean, I could lie and say I went there just because I knew we were talking, but I didn't. But I saw it. I mean, it was really cool.
Good. Yeah.
Did you guys win? You won some
did.
development award on that.
Yeah, a real estate development award. Yep, we won that for the building. Mortensen did the work, the construction work, and a lot of our internal people, help with the branding of it. But yeah, it's a unique building, and I think, because it's kind of a Milwaukee statement piece, I think everyone sort of liked that.
Yeah, there's some pride there, and
right.
Like you said, it's a 100-year-old company, but doesn't look like a 100-year-old company.
No.
It doesn't feel like one.
And we don't want it to. We want it to feel very progressive, and that's why our 100-year focus is really more on the future. We're just getting started.
Right.
It's this idea that we want to stay super humble, not get too caught up in our success, fearful of the disruptions out there that could come, fearful in the way that if we don't stay paranoid and aggressive at embracing these technologies and how they may influence the world and how we can anticipate that, then we could be disrupted. We could be in the situation that a lot of our competitors were in 2007, 8, 9, and 10, and over the last almost 2 decades. So, that's important. It comes with this candid mindset, right? We are a very flat organization, or relatively flat. We encourage managers to go 1, 2, 3 levels down to connect with people and really understand what's going on. We call those skip level meetings. Those are hugely important because a lot of the stuff that's happening doesn't get discussed at the senior level, because people don't want to complain, they don't want to rock the boat, they don't want to be viewed as being negative. So you have to ask, you have to walk around, you have to have one-on-ones, you have to have team meetings, and you really need to ask people what's going on, what's working, what's not, how's your health, how's your team's health, what's your state of mind. And that's essential when you go back to the 3 different kinds of cultures that have happened, pre-COVID, COVID, post-COVID.
Right.
The diversity of expectations and outlooks from those different groups is unbelievable. Unbelievable how people look at the world so differently now, based on where they are in that transition. And the only way you're going to manage that is to ask questions and dig in and feel around and understand where people's heads are at.
Right on. Well, and that's real. I mean, there is no going back.
No.
Right? There is no going back to the way we used to operate, back in 2019.
Right.
Now it's, are you ready for, 24, 25, and beyond?
Right.
So here's, we do a little thing where someone's got a mic, maybe a couple of mics are out there. We'll throw some questions to the audience in just a second, so let's get ready for that. But in the meantime, we talked a little bit, we were talking about sports before we came on, and it sounds like a sports analogy, your company, you stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
I'm a simple person. I need sports.
Yeah, and I would say more than that. I would say we're very competitive, but not with ourselves, right? Okay. We're externally competitive, fiercely competitive, to try to be we actually, one of our culture words is domination, and that sounds kind of odd to say, but we want to dominate our competition, not because we're overly obsessed with them, but if we don't look at things that way, there's no middle. You're either going to be really strong and successful, or you're going to be, eaten for lunch. So yeah, that's a little bit of that competitive spirit, but not with each other, which is
Okay.
important.
Yeah, right. So you're good? All right, mic's up. I've got some personal questions, but I want to kick it over to the audience and see who's got what questions to ask Scott. Hands in the air, and we'll get you a mic. I see one over here. Dr. Anthony has one.
Scott, thanks for being here this morning. I'm Ruben Anthony, the president and CEO of the Urban League of Greater Madison. And I got a question. How do you keep making your tools in America when labor is so much cheaper in other places, like in other countries? But you've got a commitment to doing it here.
We do, and we've actually never left the U.S., and most of our competitors did. Like there was this big flight to chase different areas for better cost, and not to say that we didn't look for opportunities globally. You have to, right? You have to look around the world at where the capabilities exist, right? The manufacturing capabilities, where the raw materials are, where the technology is evolving. So we've always looked at things very globally, and we looked at, on balance, what makes the most sense. So a lot of the operations that we've had here and we've invested in here are very automated, right? We've got a lot of my business, which is we make 500 million pieces a year, collectively in my business. So it lends itself to a ton of automation. So we invest in capital equipment, and it makes a ton of sense. And we can be best cost, clearly best cost in this country. We've also recognized that although a lot of companies saw the move to other parts of the world as cost effective, and parts of it was cost effective, but the logistics costs of getting product back and dealing with unplanned demand that is highly volatile, there's a lot of cost tied into logistics. So we look at really all facets of cost when we make our decisions. And we've continued to expand. We have 9 facilities in the U.S. We've got 4 in Wisconsin, 3 in Mississippi. You know about the Mississippi locations. We've got 1 in Tennessee, and we've got a small one in Pennsylvania. Okay. So will we continue to add? Yeah, very likely, but it's going to be very purposeful. So we added a plant in West Bend, which is in the state here, and that was a plant was really put there. We weren't even thinking. I mean, cost is important, but we've got IBEW recognized here. Made in the USA is a big deal to the electrician, especially with the hand tools, because you guys have to buy your own stuff, right? So hand tools to an electrician is like, you tell me, it's like an extension of your arm, right? You use it every day, the way it feels, the way it operates, and the nuances of that are really, really critical. And we've put a lot of time and energy into that, and made in the USA was a big deal. So we decided we're going to build a plant here. We're going to be able to leverage all of our tech, our close understanding of the electrical trade, and that's the right move for hand tools, right? For us to make that investment here, because we knew it would be highly valued by the tradesmen. And we knew with our manufacturing capabilities that we could do it cost effectively over time. And to be frank, it's not very cost effective out of the gate, but we know we'll get it there, and we know it's the right thing to do for the long term. So it makes sense. And we love, obviously, making things here. It's awesome. But we are realistic, though. You have to produce in different parts of the world because the skill sets are different. Yeah. I mean, there's just certain things in the U.S. you can't get done. I mean, we just don't have certain capabilities here. Now they're developing, right, which is awesome. There's a lot of reshoring going on. Yeah. So, more and more, those capabilities are improving. The more technology-oriented products and solutions become, the more opportunity we have to build that capability here. And that's always a focus, right? Yeah. We would rather build it here if we can. Yeah. But think about it. We're a global company, right? We have plants in Asia, but we also have plants in Europe, right? And so a lot of times you're building for the market. You want to be close to the market. You want to be able to service the unique needs of that market. So there's a lot of things that go into where you make.
Great, thank you. Questions? I see a couple more here in the center. First table and then in the back.
You talked a lot about your entrepreneurial and innovative mindset in terms of like switching from corded to cordless. Where are you guys focused now? Is it improving battery tech? Is it using AI tools to improve efficiency? Or what's your focus right now?
Thank you for that question. It's a It's a really important one. Battery technology is a big piece of it, right? I mean, staying in a leading position in battery technology is critical because the limitation on batteries is power and runtime, and there's a lot of development happening right now to increase the capacity of cells. So we are a leader there in that space. We have been for years. Milwaukee actually pioneered lithium ion and held 6 patents. There's 5 or 6 patents for using lithium ion technology in portable power tools, which is believe it or not, a very high power application. So battery technology, motor technology, connected devices, all of these techs have been really, really important. Different manufacturing technologies that enable new things, new ways of doing things. And then, of course, there's the whole artificial intelligence, machine learning, which is driving exponential change and opportunity. So on the tool side, you look at the intelligence we're building into the tools to anticipate the work in front of the tool or the user, to be able to have unique algorithms that we develop that can sense and observe what's going on and adjust to that environment. The latest example was a cordless drill that we trained through our own algorithms how to interpret different conditions. There's like 8 different conditions it's monitoring at all times. And regardless of the bit you're using, the material you're drilling into, the angle of the drill, the behavior of the user, and the list goes on, it can detect a lockup condition that would be very unsafe before it happens and prevent a dangerous lockup and twisting of the drill in the user's hands before it happens. So that is a great example of training the tool with machine learning by exposing that algorithm to a lot of different environments on the job site, in the lab, so it can predict what's happening next and be very smart about how it behaves. The other way we use it is it generally makes people smarter faster. So a lot of people are afraid of machine learning and artificial intelligence, and yeah, there's some spooky stuff out there, but for the most part, it's going to just enable people to be a lot more productive and to gain insights a lot faster. So, for us, it is that. It is accelerating our development, allowing us to produce things 2 to 3 times faster, because the data we're producing, we can analyze quicker, we can see patterns in the data faster, so we can get to the answer quicker, but it's also helping us see patterns that we never would have seen. Things that, you would look in a textbook and say, well, this is how things work. Here's the cause and effect. Well, that's not always the case. There's undiscovered patterns, right? There's undiscovered interactions that textbooks can't explain.
Variables.
So yeah, unexplained variables. And there's more and more variables being introduced because of the way data is so prolific now. Yeah. And there's data all around us. So finding those patterns, it takes a human a very long time to do that work. If a human trains a computer or directs a computer in the right way, machine learning algorithm, it can find patterns at light speed. So we call that human in the loop, right? The human has to be in the loop, yeah. And it empowers that individual to be able to work extremely more effective, and for us to get what we want to get faster and better.
I feel a Terminator moment happening.
Yeah, well, it's amazing how well that movie predicted the future, but
a little too well.
But fortunately, I think it's going to be less about the dark side that the Terminator portrayed, and more about how do we just enable human ingenuity and development and prosperity. We got to keep the other stuff in check, though, for sure. Right so on. I don't want to go down the dark hole.
Yeah, nobody wants to go there. I think there was a question in the back.
I'm curious, given that a lot of what you hire is historically predominantly male-dominated fields, I think engineering's of all ilks, even today, right, on campuses, there are way more men graduating with engineering degrees than women. I'm just curious if Milwaukee Tool, with your recruiting, with your growth, has any perspective or approach.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are certain profiles that are typical in certain professions. We're well beyond just an engineering company. And, we've sales and marketing company, we're engineering, finance, accounting, logistics. So, we have a growing diversity of people on our campuses, and we're very focused on, diversity of thought and really trying to seek out people that can bring the most insight and new ideas and fresh perspectives to our company, because you have to see things, you have to see what's happening, you have to have different perspectives, to be able to either solve a problem uniquely or uncover a unique solution on a job site. The more perspectives we have from different walks of life, the richer the outcomes. So we seek that out as aggressively as we can. We don't have protocols or quotas. We don't believe that's the right thing to do. We really want to hire the best people with the greatest diversity of thought. And our population has changed dramatically. I mean, we're still construction-oriented tool with a lot of engineering. So yeah, there's a bias towards the guys, but that's changing radically.
Women in the trades is
women in the trades is a big deal. If you look at some of the most successful social influencers right now, they are hardcore tradespeople, and it's a really cool thing what's going on right now. Trades are becoming cool again. There's people that are kind of sick of spending a ton of money on college and maybe never getting a payback, and people that want to get right to work and put their skills to work and like to work with their hands. And thankfully, our country is finally pivoting back to that, building our workforce, building in, leveraging the tech. And so we're at the early stages of that. We have a long way to go because there's such a shortage. I mean, right? We know what that's like. If you're in the trades, it's hard to find people to do the work, and it is the biggest backlog right now. So, anyone that wants to be in the trades, we're happy to do it. And you have to think differently, right? How do you attract people these days, right? You have to think differently about, not many people grew up doing woodworking necessarily, or working with their hands. A lot of it's tech. So how do you use tech in a construction environment to get the work done and make that appealing? There's things like virtual augmented reality, where you're using a headset to see the construction layout and know where to place the anchor or set the pipe. So we think these techs are going to be exciting enablers, but they're also appealing to what people know as they grow up. And so we have, I would say in headquarters, we've probably got roughly equal number of females to males in like marketing functions. So there's certain parts of our business that are actually predominantly marketing, just based on the way things have developed. But more and more we're excited because we don't see a lot of the traditional thinking around jobs as we used to. There's a lot more open-mindedness to different genders pursuing different paths, and we obviously want to capitalize on that and make sure we're maximizing the people that want to work for us, the number of people. So we have to be open-minded and attractive to a broad group of people. Otherwise, we won't have enough, to get the work done.
Yeah, at the rate you guys are growing, talent is key. Whatever talent looks like and wherever it comes from.
The bookends of our success, we say, are people and culture, and you can have a great strategy, and we have an awesome strategy, but if you don't have good people and a great culture and a diverse mindset, you're not going to be successful.
Yeah. It looks like we're getting there on time. Probably have time for one more question. Do we have any questions from the audience going once? Over here. Is that Dan, Gara?
First off, thank you very much for a really informed talk. I have to tell you, when I saw Milwaukee Tool, I thought about a tool company, not an innovation company, and so this has been really impressive and eye-opening for me. That said, I am really interested in the entrepreneurial ecosystem and kind of building the next generation of Wisconsin's economy. And so you guys are doing some amazing work, and you sound like a huge venture studio of innovation in Milwaukee. How are you working with the Milwaukee startup ecosystem to really kind of lead that ecosystem and kind of build the next generation of entrepreneur for Wisconsin and really, I think, the United States?
That's a good question. We do a little bit of work with some of the incubators and startup engines, I guess. A lot of it, though, tends to start with the work with the schools. So like MSOE, for example, we do a lot of collaborative work there. Obviously, we have a lot of students coming out of that school and work with the professors. In fact, you know, the leading professor for artificial intelligence actually works for us during the summers. So, you know, a lot of it, because we are our own incubator and we have such, you know, capabilities internally, you know, we don't probably do enough working with outside incubators and so forth. So we're always looking for those opportunities and are open-minded to it. But, you know, we're also trying to build our own capabilities within our four walls and collaborating, you know, with, you know, whether it's startups, with like more startup companies versus necessarily, you know, incubator, makerspace kind of environments. But we do invest in startups. In fact, a lot of the ways that we steer technology in our industry, because a lot of it goes to the government, right, military, or it goes to the automotive genre because the volume is there. We'll actually sit on boards of some startup companies so we can influence the tech to be leaning more towards our space. So we've done that in a couple cases, and we'll do more of that. But a lot of it's, you know, industry partnerships. You know, in the UK, we have a small factory there that deals with diamond technology, and we're involved in a couple of the, you know, institutes there that advance certain technologies. So, you know, institutes and I'd say small startup companies is where we're putting most of our effort into collaborating, and then of course with the schools. Working with the schools is great because when you become a favorite of a professor, they tend to send you all their best students. They give you the inside track on,
that's a pipeline.
You need to talk to this guy or this girl, right? And that's awesome. So there's a win-win with working with the universities for sure. And Madison, you know, and all of the UW schools are huge partners. So we spend a lot of time here.
Good question, Dan. So I think that's our time. If you guys will join me in thanking Scott Griswold for... And a quick note, thank you to our sponsors. This doesn't happen without our sponsors, so thank you for our sponsors for this program. Attendees, thanks for showing up and showing out, and keep track of what's going on, because Craig Culver is going to be in the house in October, so come back for that. Thanks again.